So right now, every other YouTuber is trying to gaslight you into thinking Mario Kart World is failing, that the online is dropping off, that people are just moving away from the game. I'm seeing people pretend that like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still more popular. It's some giant, like massive cope over like what's obviously a huge monumental success for Nintendo. And I'm really curious at what point this is all going to fall apart. But I do think we are going to take some time out of our day to like specify what's been going on, what's happening, and like how exactly we're going to deal with it. Because you've seen this. If you've been following like Nintendo Switch 2 coverage on YouTube, you've seen like endless amounts of grifters. Soy jacking like millennials trying to tell you that like the Switch 2 is a failure, that it bombed, that Mario Kart World is the worst Mario Kart, that there are no games on Switch 2, that this has been some massive disappointment of a console. Endless amounts of just like people who don't even own the console making videos about it, not because they're passionate about gaming or Nintendo or Mario Kart or what have you, but because they're simply looking for views to grift. And I do think like this is the main thing that you do have to understand, like why like certain individuals make endless content about Nintendo Switch 2 is because criticizing the console gets you views from PC gamers. That's just the reality of it. You don't get views from like, saying Mario Kart is good because everyone already knows the game is good. You get views by like pretending the game is bad and completely making something up out of whole cloth, right? And there's been numerous examples over the past month. You have like the online update controversy. You have like people complaining about the highways. You have people complaining about like I don't know the character roster, the way you unlock like the NPC characters, the modes, the features, the tracks, like themselves. The open world. Like there's been all sorts of like giant copes about the game over the past several weeks. But recently, like people have settled on this idea that the online is dead, which is so observably not true because of how you can just go on any of the three online multiplayer modes at any time and like find matches, okay, with no problems. Like people are on all the time. You've there are people playing all hours of the day. Every single mode, no problems, right? Like it's very observable that the game isn't dead, and yet like the pervasive narrative is that like it is, and that like Mario Kart World is like has fallen off extraordinarily quickly because the game is just so bad. And then meanwhile, the people who are saying this, like some of them are still playing the game regularly. I'm playing the game regularly. The audience is still playing the game regularly. So like, who exactly is this content for? Like, who exactly is going to believe this? Like, really? Because, anybody can just buy a Switch 2, buy Mario Kart World, set up online, play some matches on Knockout Tour, and just be like, oh, yeah, there's still plenty of people online. Like, it's not some huge, like, fall off. It's not really a thing. And that's been the case with like all of these Mario Kart controversies, is that all of these people have like fabricated these insane narratives, these insane hot takes regarding the game, regarding its popularity, regarding its like longevity, regarding its like its quality. Like they've gone to such insane lengths to gaslight people into thinking that Mario Kart is not successful, that like um they're trying to get like to gaslight people into thinking it's true, not for like any purpose more complicated than simply looking for views. That's what this is all about. The reason they're trying to tell you that Mario Kart World Online is dead is simply because of views. That's all they're looking for. That's all they want. And they do really need to be called out on this because I do think it's safe to say that, like, at this stage, there have been no valid criticisms of Nintendo Switch 2. I have not seen a single valid complaint about the games or the hardware or, like, the online service or anything. Like, everything that people come out with complaining about the game is just so laughably off base and so stupid that you can't possibly take it seriously. Anybody who spent any amount of time with the game at all knows that the insane copes about this game. Like the idea that, like, well, the ideal method to play the game is to wait in the back and then get the good items and then try and get to the front. It's like that doesn't work. Like you're not racing at that point. It's they try like really hard, to downplay all these Nintendo games. They're gonna try really hard to downplay the upcoming Direct, right? They're gonna try like really hard to downplay the console, no matter how successful it is. You're gonna see people like complaining about Switch One ports, versions of games at a certain point in the future. You're gonna see people like doing whatever it takes to like keep up this insane narrative that Switch 2 is a failure, and they're probably gonna like hype up GTA 6, to try and like downplay the console, and it's going to be like it's going to be insane seeing what happens going forward, because like they've already reached for the stars when it comes to their copes and their complaints. Nothing they've been shouting about for the past like 3 months, ever since the Switch reveal event. Nothing they've said back then has really held up at all. They've just constantly just been sitting there and just telling people that that like Nintendo is failing and here's why, and yet like plenty of people are beginning to notice that their complaints don't make any sense, and that they really do need to stop watching this content. And that's kind of what I encourage people to do. If you see these kind of like soy jacking thumbnails or like clickbaity video titles, just go to the options, don't recommend this channel, and like never watch these people again. Like that's kind of my advice to Nintendo YouTubers. I myself do that for like regularly, like with people like Demish, or like just these hyperbolic, just man drilled. Like there's endless examples of this stuff, but you don't have to be exposed to it. You don't have to watch it or pay any attention to it at all. If it was an actual valid complaint, it would become a big deal among the actual player base, not these terminally online grifting YouTubers. That's kind of my mentality going into this. Watching what Nintendo is doing and like how things are playing out. Like everybody who's complaining about Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart World are doing nothing but coping and seething.